Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at ActionCOACH Central Texas. Sitting down with Bradley Jacobs, who is the founder and the CEO of MyLance. Excited to kind of jump into some conversation when it comes to entrepreneurship, into business, into all this crazy stuff that we've decided to go into when it comes into business. So, Bradley, thank you for taking the time. Excited to jump into this here. Why don't we just start with a little bit of background? Give us kind of the, I don't know, maybe 10,000 foot view of who you are and tell us about MyLance.
Who I am. Let's see, I was a mechanical engineer undergrad, did nothing with it, went straight into management consulting because it seemed like that was a good way to get some experience. I didn't even last 2 years. I got bored pretty quickly and joined this startup called Uber in 2014. And that was a crazy rocket ship, wild ride, stressful ride, 4.5 years across rides, eats, and then Uber Freight, and got some really amazing experiences there that really propelled me in my entrepreneurship journey of launching Uber Eats in Miami and Milan, and then really grassroots starting and launching the Uber Freight business. So I kind of felt like I knew what it was like to launch a business, even though when you have Uber's resources, it's a very different equation.
Mm-hmm.
But I left Uber. I was ready to build on my own in 2018. And I actually started consulting for myself while I was tinkering around with different business ideas. And I had a lot of success being a fractional executive for startups. And that's what led me to launch MyLance, to really power other people that wanted to work part-time, that were already working part-time, but struggling with lead generation, bookkeeping, taxes, health insurance. I mean, you name it. There's a whole back end of a business that you need to run, but none of those people want to or like running that piece. They just want to serve their clients, which I totally get. So MyLance was born in early 2020, and fast forward 3.5 years, here we are today.
Very cool. Well, if you could go a little bit deeper into MyLance, so you've mentioned it a little bit, but who specifically are you looking to serve? Like, if I'm in the audience and I'm watching this back later on, how do I know I'm a really good fit, or I might know somebody who's a really good fit to work with you? Maybe give us kind of an example of what it looks like when you do work with some of your clients.
They're fractional executives that are, think of your fractional CMO, CFO, CTO, COO, right? CXO. And we also work with quite a few, I would say, fractional sales folks, or even lawyers or CPAs, or really any kind of fractional high-end service provider, but they're businesses of one most often. And we help them with lead generation. That's really the biggest thing that we continue to hear about. I want to make sure that I can find my next client and next client and next client, so I don't have these super lumpy months. I want this to be sustainable. So we essentially identify companies and decision makers and connections to those companies that you have, so that your pipeline is really always full and you're not worrying about, that stress and anxiety of, I might have a 40K month this month, and then what if I have a 7K month next month, right? We're trying to remove that, removing that anxiety.
Very cool. I love that. So I'm going to take a step back and then we'll come back to kind of some more specifics within the business. And I think that topic in general will be a fun one for us to go into. But I always like to, set the stage a little bit for the audience that we chat with here. Primarily because we've had the opportunity to chat with so many different business owners, from the, sole owner, have a little bit of a team, to, family run businesses that have a few owners into it, to, startups that have investors and boards and things like that. And I think that lends a little bit different perspective in how we go through the conversation. So on just a very broad general level for your business, what does that look like for you? Are you sole founder? Do you have business partners kind of gone through that piece? Do you have investment? Like what does that look like for you?
Solo founder. I did bring on a co-founder at one point, and that very quickly did not work out. I have a CTO who's not a founder, but he's a business partner with me for sure. We've raised two very small rounds of angel friends and family money. Call it friends and family, but it's not much family, but very small rounds, like both under 500K. So we've run very, very lean over the years. I'm not interested in the VC model and getting on that hamster wheel. We can talk about that if we want to. So I have a small team. And one thing I did early on that I really recommend is, I was a solo founder. I didn't have any team, And so I asked a few of my old colleagues from different parts of my business life to be advisors to the company. And I would
Mm.
meet with them monthly and I would report out to them as if they were my board on learnings and successes and goals for the next month and a question to answer, if you will. And that was a huge bump for me in just not being in a silo trying to make all these decisions myself, because that's just not going to work out. And you just feel so alone. So that was a huge bump for my just morale and motivation. And I wanted to report out to them every month. So I highly recommend that.
If you could, let's dive a little bit deeper on that, because I'm 100% aligned with the when you have to report out, even if you are technically the owner and have every right to do whatever you want, when you have to report out, whether it's by department or it's by the business overall, it provides something a little bit different to how you run and operate the business. If you could share a little bit, maybe a little bit deeper on kind of that experience and what that did or what that allowed for you in your business.
Every day you're in the weeds. You're trying to service customers, find new customers, and all the nitty gritty integrations, Zapier, whatever it is. And that monthly meeting forced me to take a massive step back and zoom out and say, what the hell are we doing here? Right? Like, what's our mission and vision and goals? And are we really doing the most needle moving things to accomplish those goals? Or like, what's really the strategy here that's behind all of this? And that, even though I was doing that alone, right, I would come up with the deck alone. But even just having to come up with the structure of a deck of like, okay, let me remind them actually, what problem are we solving and who's our customer, and how have we attracted those customers today, and what's our CAC and what's our LTV, all of those high level things that on a day-to-day, on your average Tuesday, I'm not worried about, right? I can't think about that. But if I had a board, that's what you would do, right? Or if you had investors, or even if you were a publicly traded company, right, you'd have all of this reporting out of how are we doing and how are we going to get to the next level? What does that next level even look like? So it was a forcing function for me to ask those hard questions, and a group of really smart people to hold me accountable, push back, give their thoughts. I think they were probably a little too nice early on, frankly, but it's a different conversation. But yeah.
That's very cool. It made me think, did you go far enough to the point where if you weren't hitting kind of the standards that you had set for yourself within the business, were there consequences? Like, did you ever get to the point of like, all right, I've got marketing things that I need to do. This is what the report is. Here's what the standards are. And if I'm consistently missing it for 6 months, then I got to fire myself and find somebody else to fill it. Did you go that far, or is that kind of what did that piece of it look like from a accountability and standards standpoint?
That is probably the missing piece, frankly. And that is, I don't know how you really do that in that kind of setting, because that almost to me seems like you need an accountability coach weekly, where you're saying, like, okay, what are the things you're doing this week, this week, this week to hit your monthly, quarterly, annual goals, right? It all builds up. This was a bit softer, frankly. And there's a balance, because I'm a first time founder. So there's a balance of, I just want to get this off the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and it's such a difficult journey that I need support and love, and like, it's going to be okay kind of vibes. But then you also, like, I'm not doing this for a pat on the back, right? Then it's at some point there's also the like, get your shit together and hit your goals, or what's holding you back, and why do you have resistance here? Why, like, there's, because actually where you have resistance is really an amazing place to dig into and be curious about of what's a limiting belief, or whatever it is. So there's definitely a push pull there. It was softer for me. Doing it all over again, I would definitely have a bit more of a stick involved of like, guys, I need you to hold me accountable, or appoint one person to say like, hey, you're going to be the accountability person in the group, or something like that.
I love that. And for those that are listening that haven't even taken that step of having the accountability group, like that's an amazing first step. So if you take anything from it, go do that to get things started. Have that group of peers that you have to report to. All right. So you had mentioned you've got a small team at this point. Kind of things have grown and transitioned over the last couple of years. What does your role in the business look like today? How many different hats do you still have to wear? Have you been able to hand a few of them off? Like, which ones do you keep for now? Let's just start with that piece. Kind of what does that look like for you?
Such a hard balance, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's, as a leader, I think about hiring amazing people, empowering them to do a great job, and I'll be here to kind of steer the ship. But as a startup, you're not there, or you're like 20% there and 80% just doing stuff. And finding that balance is really hard. So I am a full-time product manager. I would say I'm a 70% marketer. I am, obviously the leader, the visionary, the holding everybody accountable and pushing the ball forward just from a alignment perspective. So that's what I think is really the CEO's job, right? Like, make sure there's a North Star, make sure everybody knows that North Star, and we're all doing the different things to get to the same place, right? So there's that piece of the job. And then there's, of course, all the HR and accounting and just making sure that like we have cash in the bank and, legal stuff is taken care of. So there's a whole HR piece, which I do probably 80% of. I have a chief of staff part-time that helps me out. So thank God for her. But that's a huge piece. The pieces I've handed off are the website. I don't do anything with the website really anymore. All of our product development, or I say software development, not that I could do it, but I have a CTO and another senior dev doing all of that, which is great. And then I do have an operations associate that really runs a lot of the nitty gritty back end operational components of the business that there's just no way that I would have the time for right now. One piece I haven't really handed off at all is sales. I talk to a lot of customers. I think it's really important that I talk to a lot of customers. I'm very, very close with them, and I plan to be for a long time, frankly. And maybe I'll, slightly scale back, but I think there's nothing more important than talking to your customers and getting that raw feedback and knowing actually what's going on in your business, especially when you're small.
I love that. I always like to, on that same vein, ask, of the hats that you still get to wear today, is there one or two that you absolutely love? If best case scenario, you'd keep at least a portion of that at all times, just because it's the area that you're most excited about.
I love coaching, actually. And it's almost a problem because we're building a software business, and, and I keep leaning towards, helping these people from a coaching perspective. But talking to customers, asking them the questions that help them identify their limiting beliefs and helping them identify what they need to do to grow their business, and then them doing it, coming back to me and saying like, wow, this changed my life. That's the end of the day what is so powerful to me. Over time, our software will do that more and more and more, right? So we need to find a way to still get that feedback, even though I'm not doing it manually. But yeah, talking to customers is not something I'm going to let go of anytime soon. And I do think even when we're big, right, there's just still I remember even at Uber, our like head of East Coast operations would do driver support tickets every once in a while, right? Just stay close to your customer, know what the hell is going on, because it's just not the same to hear it from other people. Like, you just got to be there.
I would 100% agree with that. Having an ear to the ground, maybe not always, full time type deal, but being able to have that feeling of what's going on with the actual customers in your market is very important. So you mentioned lead generation. Helping with lead generation has kind of been a big piece of what y'all do. It's a good kind of inroads to a topic around marketing. I love talking about marketing. It's an area that vital, super vital, as you may know, for every business out there. May not always be the one that business owners like gravitate to and are like, I'm great at this from day one. So I'm curious, what has been kind of your philosophy to marketing for your business? And then maybe an aside to it, just because of the work that you do, uh, what's kind of the philosophy that you take into working with some of your clients?
Marketing for me is really around two specific things that I'll hit on. One is, if your customers love your product, they're going to tell their friends about it, right? People in your target customer base, they know other people in that customer base. And, I saw it at Uber, just like the virality of that product. And that's a once in a generation company from product market fit standpoint. But if our product is really amazing, then we're going to just grow. We're almost like can't not grow, right? You'll struggle not to grow if your product is that good. So that's the product answer of make your customers really happy and then tell them what you want. Ask them to go share this with friends. Like, they will do it naturally, but I was very scared early on to ask for those kinds of things, like, hey, post on LinkedIn or share with your friends, or here's this affiliate link, go share it. Make the ask, right? I think that's a thing people aren't good at doing, right? Ask for what you want. So I think that's number one, like make an amazing product, then ask for those referrals. And then number two is find, and it's kind of cliche, but find your niche in a way that really resonates with that user. So one of the benefits of talking to, I've probably spoken with 600 or 700 customers at this point over the years. There's only so many themes that they hit on, right? What holds them back or questions they have, right? There's probably 150, 200 questions that they've had. And every single one of those questions basically is an amazing topic for LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, maybe even Reddit, Quora, right? And so I just started writing on LinkedIn. And I actually enjoy writing, so it comes pretty naturally to me. But I just started writing, and I would pick a question, and I learned that instead of preaching, here's the answer to this question, I would answer the question through a personal anecdote, something I experienced in my business, whether when I was a fractional or with MyLance, or maybe I could tell it on a customer's behalf. But and going vulnerable and then deep, right? Anything super high levels, useless. No one's going to like that. But if it's deep and it's I share numbers, and I share how I won these clients, and I shared failures also. It's like when I lost a client by being stupid or whatever it is. And my LinkedIn community loves it. And so many people have found out about us from LinkedIn, and then I will repurpose this stuff for Twitter. And then they've been asking me for years if I could record videos. So I finally just recorded some videos, and they did great. And I post them on LinkedIn, I post them on YouTube. And I don't think I'm such a great speaker or anything like that. I think it's more about being willing to share the actual story, what actually happened for your specific niche. Again, like super, super, super narrow. Like I'm not going to write like, here's how you grow a business, right? But if I talk about like, here's how a experienced fractional CMO finds their next client, that's interesting to a certain subset of people. And frankly, the subset of people that I want to attract.
I love that. How do you, with that being an area that you've seen some success in, um, for those that are kind of looking to maybe go that same direction, how have you found an effective way to track results from that type of a marketing strategy?
It's really difficult. I'm not going to lie. It is very, very difficult. Um, you can put links in a comment with a UTM parameter, and you can see the success of that. At the end of the day, the more impressions I have my LinkedIn post, the more signups we get with MyLance. It's just what happens. And it's it's a little bit counterintuitive because I'm not promoting MyLance in these posts, right? I'm just sharing stories and learnings and education, things like that. Maybe 1 in 20 posts, I will ask for something, right? But it's just giving. It's just giving information, giving knowledge. Or the other thing you can do is you can give away a lead magnet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
one of my most successful lead magnets was I had a proposal that won a 20K project. If you comment proposal here, I will send it to you. I think we got, I don't know, 150 emails in like 3 days, right? It was for us, that was great.
It's
So
amazing.
yeah, so you can do the lead magnet game, but at the end of the day, get impressions on your posts by writing really quality stuff, maybe having a few people share it. In our MyLance community, we have a LinkedIn army, and everyone shares each other's stuff, so that's nice. But write high quality stuff, write consistently. I write every day. Every single day I write on LinkedIn. And some of them are terrible. Some of them get 0 likes, literally 0. I have 17,000 followers, and sometimes they get 0. But some of them my best one got 700,000 impressions. And it was a blowout week for MyLance. So at the end of the day, I can't exactly tie, if I write X number of posts, I will get this many signups. It's not quite like that. But I am actually interested in, apparently you can now promote personal posts on LinkedIn. I actually haven't experimented with this yet, but it's apparently in the last month. So I can take my best performing posts that I know are already really good, and then put some ad promotion behind that, and that we could measure. So I don't have an amazing answer for you, unfortunately. But go out there and most people don't do it at all. So for the people listening that probably don't do this, frankly, even starting with 2 posts a week from a I standpoint, again, don't say the you posts do terribly, right? But the I posts, they do well.
Well, I think there's some phenomenal pieces in there. I know from someone who knows a lot about marketing, it's not doesn't seem like the easiest answer. With it is harder to track that sort of thing. But you hit some things in there that I think are often overlooked. I mean, just even correlating number of impressions to actual signups, even though it's not maybe the perfect link between measuring it, it's still a measurement to track. And I think even that is oftentimes overlooked. And in the quality of it, are you seeing growth over time? All of that, I think are some pretty amazing things. So I appreciate you sharing that. There was a lot of wisdom in there, and I just want to like pause for those that are watching this later on that go back, kind of re-listen to that. There's definitely some wisdom there.
I'm going to add one
Um,
more thing before we jump forward is
Please.
in writing on LinkedIn over time. I didn't know this for a while, but I've been building trust with the community on LinkedIn to the point where by the time they get on the phone with me, they know my story, they know my wins, they know my failures, they know what I've been through and where I'm going, and they're ready to buy. I remember we switched to a $10,000 coaching program last year, and my first customer, once we switched to the higher end price point, she told me after, she was like, it didn't matter what you were going to say on the phone, like I was in. And that is incredibly powerful. Like you can't buy that trust. That is so valuable as a business owner. So that's a side effect I really didn't quite expect at all, but has happened in that people know me, they trust me, and so they trust MyLance, and they're at least willing to give it a shot. And again, you can't buy that trust.
No, it's absolutely amazing. The level, I'm trying to think about how to like frame this, but the integration between what marketing kind of is today and what the sales process was a long time ago, there's so much overlap. Yes, there's still kind of some distinctions between them, but this trust process happens so much more without having conversations with an actual salesperson today, because we just have so much more access to information. So when you're putting really good stuff out there and creating that credibility and creating that trust, it's amazing what can happen when those conversations actually take place.
Yeah, 100%.
So before we kind of start moving into wrap up, I do want to be respectful of time. But with this journey that you've been on, both with MyLance and with Uber and kind of all the things before it, um, is there? Do you have maybe one business lesson that stands out to you kind of in your journey overall, whether it's look back as far as you want to? I'm sure there have been lots and lots of different lessons that you've learned along the way, but is there one that kind of stands out to you that would be helpful for the audience to kind of hear a little bit about as they go through their journey in entrepreneurship?
Yes, and it's from my own experience and talking to hundreds of others at this point, is that we have as entrepreneurs, or maybe want to be entrepreneurs, we get really excited about ideas and new ventures or new business lines, and then often something holds us back or we don't fully go into it. And so we spend time on, I want to say, bullshit. We spend time on logos and business models and perfecting websites and writing out content strategies. And you could spend years, frankly, preparing. And I think I'd love to see more people just do it, just go for it. And what I mean is talk to customers and sell before you build, and just make a needle moving step that day. Don't go build a logo. I still never built a logo for MyLance. We picked a type form I liked, and that's what we use. When I first sold my consulting client, I didn't have a website, I didn't have an LLC, I didn't know my niche, I didn't know my price point, I didn't know anything. I was just like, hey, I have this experience. Can I help your company? I talked to 12 companies, 11 said no, one said yes, and I had my first client, and it was 25 grand a month. So it's like, just do it, right? Just go for it. And like, you can do a little planning. I'm not saying don't do any, but there's so many more people that do all of this planning and preparation. And it's usually because there's some fear. There's some, I'm scared to win. I'm scared to fail. I'm scared what people will think of me. And I would love for people to acknowledge that and then put it aside and just do it anyway, because good things will happen.
I love that. That is an amazing lesson. So as you look out for the next 3 to 5 years, what are you excited about? What's upcoming for the business as you continue to grow?
For me, it's really accomplishing the dream of making this freelance life sustainable. It's so powerful of what you can do if you can work 20 hours a week and pay all of your bills and then some. You can start that side business, spend time with your family, the single parents of the world, right? It's just like it's a game-changing experience for them. It's closing the gender pay gap for women that get controlled by this W-2 and these salaries and all this stuff, and all of a sudden they can dictate their rates and change their rates project to project. I've seen it, I've lived it, with our customers, and it's so powerful. So for me, it's building this software suite that just right now we solve the problem, but I want to solve it better and better and better and better to the point where it's on autopilot, and you can go to the beach all day, know your next client's coming in tomorrow, and pay your bills, save for retirement, all those kinds of things, and live a life you're genuinely fulfilled in and happy to live. Like that's what gets me excited.
That is fantastic. So as we wrap up, I like to have just a few rapid fire questions. We'll go top of head answers for these. I've got 4 of them in total. Kind of just pull out some additional nuggets of wisdom for the audience here. So first one, when you look back at your journey so far, what would you say is kind of your key to success?
Moving quickly and just selling. I always sell. I'm like selling on the phone. My team is like, Bradley, we don't have that product. And I just, when I see a customer with a problem, that's an opportunity to sell them something, and we'll figure it out. Like we'll figure it out. So I just think I'm always selling. And I think that's honestly most entrepreneurs probably should be.
I love that. So we'll kind of shift the question a little bit. What if you could only give just one single piece of advice for other entrepreneurs out there? You could only give them one. What piece of advice would you give them?
Solve a very narrow problem. I made this mistake where it was, we're going to build the Shopify for your freelance business, and we were going to build everything. We're going to give you the website and payment processor and project management, client management. We were going to do everything, and that is a huge miss. And I hear people come to me all the time wanting to do so much with their business, which is a great idea. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, there's millions of businesses out there, and you need to be best in the world at one thing for one customer segment. It's like just pick that super, 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 super narrow thing, especially early on, and do it best in the world. And that's how you'll win.
Love that. What's one book that either you're currently reading or have read most recently that you would recommend to the audience?
Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss changed my life in not only a business, it's a negotiation book, but it's not just a negotiation book. It is a connecting with people. It is a sales book. It is a connecting with your partner, connecting with your family. I mean, God, I use it every day, the tactics from that book. Also a fascinating read by a former FBI hostage negotiator. So that's just cool in and of itself. But the learnings of building emotional connections with people and really like the tactics that he talks about are absolutely life-changing for me. So I read it a while ago, but I can't not recommend that one.
It's a good recommendation. All right, final rapid fire question. This one's just kind of a fun one. If you had to choose or got to choose only one area in your business, and you can only choose one, that you could sprinkle some magic dust on, wake up tomorrow, it's 10 times better than it is today, where would you choose to put that magic dust?
I'm going to choose our customer support, to say when someone doesn't quite either understand what exactly we do, or they're just confused about the software, or they want to change something, whatever it is, that if they could just get a response back in 20 minutes, with a thoughtful response that answers their question, solves their problem. I know as a customer how good I feel when a business really delivers on that. And I don't think we're doing as good of a job as we could be today. And so that is a piece where we're small, but we're big enough where we have customers that need support. And I'd love for them just to feel so frankly loved and supported by us. So that would be the sprinkle of dust.
I love that. Well, Bradley, before we get to the final question, I'd love to wrap these conversations up on for those that are in the audience that are watching this or listening to this later on, how can they connect with you? How can they learn more about MyLance and all the amazing things that y'all are doing? Obviously, you mentioned LinkedIn. Where can we advise them to go for more information to follow the amazing writing and everything that else that you're doing? Where should we tell them to go?
Follow me on LinkedIn. I said I publish every day, and I also write about MyLance. I'll write a monthly newsletter of MyLance updates. So it's not just talking about my consulting business and tips. It's actually following my journey. And then go to our website. Obviously there's a lot to learn there, and we have we spent a lot of time on our blog with free resources. So finding your first client, setting rates, scoping out projects, negotiation tips, posting on LinkedIn, all those kinds of things. It's a very rich blog, and we now have a free community. So if you go to MyLance, it's completely free. You get a turnkey website, and you get to join our community. And we do workshops and free resources and networking in there. So people love our community. We definitely could charge for it, but just not our focus, right? We're focusing on one thing. So join our community, follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn. And I get messages of people that listen to the podcast. And I love getting those messages. It's like, hey, I listened to this, and it makes me feel really good. So send me a note.
Beautiful. I absolutely love that. I will make sure to put all of that in the video description below for all of you that are watching this later on. And take that extra moment, send Bradley a message here on LinkedIn, say, "Hey, saw you on the Business Spotlight." That's one of the things I love about this particular series is some of the connections that are being made between others that have been on the Spotlight series before, those that have kind of watched it, things like that. So take the time, go make that connection. But as we wrap up, I like to finish on one final question. That question is simply, what is most inspiring to you today?
The people that are out there struggling and doing it anyway. Like, life is hard. Life throws shit at you. Could be family, could be health, could be business. And people that follow their passions despite all of that, right? So sometimes it's not the most glorious to quit your job that might be really high paying or just stable, even if it's not high paying, and follow that thing that really lights you up. But the people that are doing that, and especially the people that can share from a place of genuine vulnerability about their journey and what they're doing and following those passions, often to help other people. That's usually where it comes from, but not always. Could just be like, fulfilling a creative genius within you or whatever it is. But that's when people are happiest and most fulfilled. And I think that's when our world is a better place, basically, when people have that internal fulfillment that they can then be selfless with others and give back and all that. So those people inspire me a lot. I learn from them, and yeah, I would just encourage more and more people to like follow that internal aspiration.
Absolutely love it. Bradley, I want to say thank you for taking the time. This has been enlightening. This has been fun. This has been lots of wisdom that kind of come out of the conversation here today. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time and being here with me today.
Thanks for having me, Tanner. It's a lot of fun.